Senator Menendez, thank you so much for joining us today, and thank you for your decades of leadership on Armenian issues. You've been a great friend to the Armenian community across the Garden State and around America. You've been active on this issue, the Armenian Genocide issue, since your days in the U.S. House, going back decades now. Can you share with us how this issue has evolved or developed over all these years?
Well, Aram, it's good to be with you. And of course, this is an issue that I have taken to heart over the course of many years from my days in the House of Representatives and, of course, in the Senate. And I think, as you know all too well, for years, members of Congress from both parties opposed the resolution of recognition of the Armenian Genocide out of concern for U.S.-Turkey relations. And it really is a testament to the Armenian American community, and especially groups like ANCA, that have pushed for a recognition of the genocide and pushed back upon the denial for decades. And that was key to convincing many of my hesitant colleagues to speak to the truth of the genocide. And additionally, in the last several years, my colleagues have begun to recognize that Turkey, under Erdogan's leadership, is not a responsible and reliable ally. And I think what many of us have been saying for some time finally was crystallized in the minds of many colleagues, and particularly, you know, some of the strongest defense hawks, Republicans, who just believed that the U.S.-Turkey NATO alliance was so critical to national security that we shouldn't let anything upset it, including speaking truth to power. And many of them have come to have a different view of Turkey today under Erdogan. So I think that's how we have seen the effort of the community, organizations like ANCA, the power of the truth itself, and then finally the right moment.
Senator, in November and early December of 2019, there was you basically, just through sheer force of will and persistence, not only delivered a passage, but unanimous passage against some very heavy opposition, including from the White House. Could you just share with us what that 4, 5, 6 weeks was like in getting this issue through to unanimous adoption?
Yeah, it was a difficult time. You know, I had just come to the conclusion that if not now, when? If not now, ever? And I say that because, you know, we had the century-plus mark of the genocide. We had a Turkey under Erdogan that showed itself to be everything that we would be concerned about. And we were constantly saying that we would, in cases of genocide, that never again. Well, when was never again going to have meaning? And so I decided that too often the opposition to the genocide resolution was allowed to do so behind the curtain, so to speak, in the darkness. Mm-hmm. And I was just going to call the question on the floor and go to the floor to seek what we call unanimous consent, which means you can pass anything in the Senate, but you must get the totality of the Senate to agree. And if someone wants to object, when you come to the floor, instead of just calling the office and saying, I object, you have to come to the floor and object. And that exposes you to why are you objecting, or on whose part are you objecting, and why does your objection have, you know, relevancy or legitimacy? And so I had to do that not once, not twice, but 3 times. And I said in one of my speeches, in addition to detailing the history of the Armenian genocide and detailing the histories of Henry Morgenthau, our ambassador at the time to the Ottoman Empire, and the dispatches that had been made to the State Department, clearly defining what was going on at that time by the Ottoman Empire as genocide, and the historical perspectives of historians and whatnot, it made it very difficult for a member to come down and somehow object to what is the truth. And I said, I will continue to come to the floor and go through every member who is going to object, and they will have to make their case as to why they object publicly. And I think it got to a point where the White House, under the former administration, could no longer find someone to object. And we had that moment, which I'll never forget, of unanimous consent and passage, finally, of the Armenian Genocide resolution by the United States Senate, which I believe broke the ground to lay the foundation for President Biden to make his acknowledgement of the Armenian Genocide.
Absolutely. You certainly were the driving force in the Senate, and I think that the moral voice that the White House needed to hear to do the right thing this April 24th. And so we want to thank you for that. And what do you think it was? Do you think it was the congressional action? Was it community expectations? Perhaps Senator Biden's record, in the Senate before he became vice president and then president. But your role, I think, without the Senate vote, we would not have seen the president do the right thing, and we want to thank you for that. But how do you think that developed with our president?
Well, now that it's all happened, I can share some insights. Number one is, President Biden, as a candidate, made a commitment to recognize the Armenian Genocide. He was not in a role before. The vice president of the United States doesn't dictate what happens. Only the president does. They can influence, they can advise, they can cajole, but they're not in the ultimate position. So when he was vice president under President Obama, who had also promised, it didn't happen. But he had made a commitment. When his administration started assembling into place, I raised this issue with Secretary Blinken as he was going through his confirmation process, both privately and publicly. I raised it with other nominees to the State Department. And I raised it with Ron Klain, the Chief of Staff to the President. And then ultimately, I had an opportunity to raise it with the President. He told me that he was going to keep his commitment. He told me before it became public, but he also asked me to keep it private, which I did, because the goal was the most important thing. And I was elated. I told him that this is a historic moment, and you will be the first president of either party to ultimately recognize the Armenian Genocide, and you will give new meaning to America standing up for that which is right in human rights and in the question of making sure that history is appropriately recognized, because when we failed to learn from the past, we relive it. And so I was thrilled that the president did so. He did so in a rather powerful way. And now there is no question anymore, with the House of Representatives, the United States Senate, and the President of the United States all recognizing the Armenian Genocide, what America believes happened in those fateful years, and ultimately calls history for what it is, a genocide.
Absolutely. I think that we're seeing this trickle down through the federal government, and I think that our State Department developed some certain habits over the years on this issue. We're hoping that those will be set aside, and that new, healthier habits will take their place, and that our career foreign service officers and senior appointed officials will follow the president's lead, of course, which is the U.S. policy now, and perhaps even teach about this at the Foreign Service Institute. Make sure that diplomats sent abroad are aware of the history of this issue. So I think the effects will cascade, I think, for years, frankly. And your leadership in getting the Library of Congress in the wake of your resolution, getting the Library of Congress to properly catalog books after, frankly, having failed to do so for decades, that also has a long-term effect. There are thousands of library systems around America and around the world that follow that system. So I think, from everyone from school kids to scholars and researchers will now be able to look up books on the Armenian Genocide in the proper way. So thank you so much for your work with the Library of Congress as well. That I think really has deep and lasting meaning.
Well, thank you, Aram. And look, imagine having a library, but having the information there not be appropriately presented. The purpose of a library is for knowledge, but knowledge has to be truthful at the end of the day. And so I'm glad we were able to effect that. I do believe that now that the president has recognized the Armenian genocide, that it will be the policy of the entire State Department to continue to do so. I do hope that and believe that whoever the next ambassador is to Armenia at the commemoration next April 24th will be at, for the first time, at a genocide commemoration where a U.S. diplomat will use the appropriate words to describe what happened, and they will use the word genocide. And that is an earth-shattering moment because it's not just the recognition, it's the message it sends to other countries in the world who have not yet recognized the genocide, that maybe you should be doing so as well.
It's true. I think the impact it's every local, national, global. At the level of school systems, for example, the state of New Jersey includes Armenian genocide education in its school curricula, which is great. About a dozen other states do as well. We're hopeful that that other school systems around the country will include the Armenian genocide in their human rights programs. Let me just turn to the final question, which is the point you raised about other countries. There's a deep concern among Armenians worldwide that Armenia can't be safe, bordered by unrepentant and very heavily armed perpetrators of genocide. And the American recognition is very powerful. It's something that we've worked our entire lives for, and now we turn our attention to addressing the consequences of this crime. And one of those is the fact that Turkey and Azerbaijan continue to deny this crime. We're marching toward justice, but a next step on that path, we hope, will be Turkey and Azerbaijan, reckoning honestly with their history. How can we, as a community, how can our congressional friends impress upon Ankara and Baku that this denial is absolutely unacceptable?
Well, I think it will have to be part of U.S. policy now that the administration and President Biden has recognized the Armenian genocide, to speak frankly with our counterparts both in Turkey and Azerbaijan. I think also I am deeply concerned about prisoners of war who have not been returned to Armenia by Azerbaijan. I am deeply concerned that the suggestion that everything is resolved as a result of the conflict, it is not. And so we will need diplomacy to pursue the arrangements that were made to try to find a pathway forward in peace. And with Turkey, I have to be honest with you, while we will, I think, speak truth to power, and as you know, Erdogan did everything possible to try to convince President Biden not to do this, and he did it nonetheless. That I think we need a change in Turkey to find that moment in which they can deal with their past. As I've told foreign leaders, not only on this issue but others, America's original sin was slavery, and only when we faced it and began to deal with it could we really truly free ourselves and move forward. And so in this case, a Turkey who can't recognize what the Ottoman Empire did at that time as genocide cannot free itself and move forward. But I think it's going to take new leadership. I know elections are on the horizon there. Maybe we'll see whether new leadership ultimately evolves in a way that even, some Turkish scholars who have had the, courage to speak out the truth about the genocide can begin not only to be heard, but that the government will move in a direction that not only recognizes it, but finds a reconciliation. And so we will continue down this path, both as to Nagorno-Karabakh, as to the relationships of Armenia's neighbors, trying to help Armenia meet the challenge of all of those who had to return and seek refuge in Armenia, on doing those things that can strengthen our bilateral relationship in a way that helps strengthen Armenia within the region.
Thank you, Senator. Senator, as an Armenian, I'm deeply grateful. My family, my community is deeply grateful. As an American, I think what you've done is given us a great civics lesson on what's possible in America, that hard work and persistence delivers results, that America does the right thing. It wants to do the right thing. It just takes our effort and our time and our perseverance and allies such as yourself. So just profound thanks today for all your leadership, Senator Menendez.
Well, it's been a great honor to work with ANCA and others. I know that my wife's family, who is Armenian, and the deep hurt that they have felt over the years for the losses of family members in the genocide, I could see in them what it meant with the recognition. Again, I salute President Biden for doing the right thing. Other presidents have said they would. He did when others did not. And I do think that educating, motivating, and bringing people to action makes a difference. It took a long time, but for that education, motivation, and action, it would have never happened. And so I salute you and all of those who have persevered. I think we have released 1.2 million souls to heaven.
Thank you, Senator. Thank you.